This week we take a look at the 150, add some new fish and plants, and then go upstairs to check out my DIY plant wall and how all of those are doing, as well as checking in on the Owasi BiOrb that I made together with George Farmer at this past year's aquatic experience.
Hey guys, and welcome to the Fish Room. I'm Rachel O'Leary, and today we're going to look at the 150 as it's time to move my gobies that have been in quarantine into that aquarium, and I think I'm going to add some of the white clouds as well. Now, if you're new here, the 150-gallon Hillstream aquarium is one that I built over 4 years ago now, and recently moved to a new spot in the Fish Room. Last week I got in some new plants from a friend of mine that is very talented with plants, and I added some Boost Centipede to the midsection of the aquarium. There was a large rock there that had an exposed face, and it just bothered me that it was visually disruptive, so I added some Boost in there. I attached some to the driftwood, and I added this really cool tall hair grass. I'm not sure how that'll do. We'll have to see how it goes long term. I also have enormous boxes sitting on the stairs leading down to the fish room, which is new lighting for most of the fish room that I need to get installed. And I just wanted to show you real quick as well how the plant rack is doing and how my BiOrb is doing. So today is going to be more like your typical Thursday video where it's a little bit of everything, but I have to tell you, it has been bonkers down here. If you joined me on my live stream on Thursday, thank you. Make sure you're subscribed to that notification bell on if you're interested in doing that. You saw that I painted the wall in what's going to be the new nano corner. I'm giving away the aquariums that were there to various children that are local. Yeah, everything's doing really well. The reason I'm changing the lights down here is because almost every single aquarium has a small amount of hair algae, which is not something I ever got before I switched to LED shop lights. So I'm hoping that switching to a light with a better spectrum will help with that problem, but if not, I'm prepared to do other things. So let's take a look at the 150, let's catch some fish, let's add them to the 150, and then let's head upstairs and take a look at my plant wall and BiOrb. So here is the 150. I added that super tall hair grass over on that side. The hope is that it'll grow in and curl across the surface. It's kind of neat. Its rhizome, or what the actual fronds of grass grow out of, is red, which is really unique. And then you can see I added a bunch of Boost Centipede here on this rock. And then I tied some little Boost Mini Catherine up there in the crook of that. I also threw a few bromeliads that were sort of struggling upstairs on the emergent wood of this aquarium to see how they do. I think visually adding those plants in over here really make a huge difference. That light spot of rock was really bothering me, and I think now it just looks way better. The crypts are coming back from their melt from the replant. I think they're doing pretty well. I'm excited to add more gobies into this aquarium, and as soon as I have enough aquariums emptied from the quarantine rack and breeding rack, then I can do a fish order to get in more species to quarantine for this tank. So let's go ahead and, on that note, catch the gobies, the rhinogobius maze face or mask face, whichever one, I can't remember what the common name they were given is, and some of the just normal white clouds, and throw them in here. Now, I'm not going to add my meteor minnows in here yet because there's a lot of them are still a bit small, and I don't want them to get eaten by anything, nor do I think at this size that they would appreciate the space. Those I'll grow out and add later. So this is the progress on the nano corner. I dry locked the wall and cleaned the PVC. I may end up painting this. Basically what I want is, if I am using or setting up new nano aquariums in this section, I may or may not be using a background on them, so I wanted to provide some sort of more attractive backdrop than a cinder block wall. I mean, it's still a cinder block wall, but now it's a white cinder block wall. So I'm hoping that will allow me to play with some backlighting potentially, or just show off the aquariums better without it being a really old block wall. Now eventually I would like to do this entire wall. There's actually a shortage on the dry lock in this area, and I had to buy all these little quarts instead of gallons, and it gets pretty expensive pretty fast. This is one coat and it took 2 quarts, so it's going to take a full gallon to do this one sectional wall, which is about 40 bucks, and I think it'd probably take another gallon and a half. So at some point I'll invest in maybe one of the 5-gallon buckets of it, which is $120, in order to do all the rest of the exposed block wall, and to have on hand to help continue to beautify the fish room. But for now, gonna catch some fish. Now I have normal white clouds in this aquarium and that aquarium, and then I have my gobies down there that I'm going to be catching today to move into the 150. Now the parameters are the same in all these aquariums, so I don't really need to worry about any acclimation. I'm mainly adding the fish from this aquarium simply so that this aquarium is now free, because that's one more tank closer to my goal of being able to do a fish order. Now hopefully this weekend I'll get to redoing the lighting on this rack. Right now it's not awesome. It's just all sort of cobbled together. Now I didn't do as long of a quarantine on these gobies as I normally would, because they came from a breeder. But because of their specialized needs and how good they look, I really want to get them into the Hillstream sooner rather than later. And again, it'll free up yet another aquarium here. Gobies can be a bit tricky to catch because they can climb the glass. So I just go slowly and kind of wait for them to swim into the net. Let's take a closer look at those gobies because they are stunning. You can see the patterning they're starting to develop as they get a bit bigger. Really freaking cool. You can see he's getting some white to his dorsal too. It'll be fun to watch these guys grow up. Let's go ahead and put them in the 150. I'm just pouring the fish through a net. There's no need to add the water from the quarantine in here. It probably wouldn't hurt anything, especially because they're all fully quarantined, but why bother? It's the white clouds in, now for the gobies. The scarlet goby's already actively investigating the matter. Let's move a little closer. White clouds love the flow. In fact, they're in an area of pretty intense flow right up at the top, right up from the start. and they look happy as can be. And what I like best is that they tend to engage with these Brachydaniochaethae, the orange fin danios. I'm going to go ahead and drop some food in here and see what happens. Now, just seconds after adding them to the aquarium, they seem totally unfazed. And you can really see the color that they're starting to get a bit better. That, I believe, is the largest of what I think is a male. This whole aquarium has the zoomies right now because of the addition of food. See some of the silver coolies, a bunch of the spiny loaches, some of the soelias, some of the gastromyzons, stiphodons, shiners, another of the new gobies. This aquarium just keeps getting better and better. I'm so excited to watch it mature again after moving, but already I think it's really successful. Now I have new lights for this one as well, which I'm thinking is going to help with sort of the yellow look that it has. I love the brown background. It makes me feel like it looks even more like a stream, which is what I'm going for. And I can't wait to see it under a bit bolder lighting, a bit whiter lighting, so that we can really see the diversity of the colors of the green and red plants in there. Look at those stiphodons, aren't they cute? My entire staircase is taken up with packages, huge heavy packages. That's the secret room I've never shown you guys. Whew, whew. The plant wall is doing awesome. You can see the cat, Mabel Grace, she approves. And for the most part, they've stayed off of it. And I think the key to that is really overcrowding the plants, which also helps with humidity. Humidity is something that I'm struggling with. It is staying a bit lower than I'd like. So I mist the plants at least once or twice a day and just really stay on top of their soil humidity. And I do that with a probe that I stick into the pots of plants to see what their humidity level is. For the most part, everything's doing okay. Haven't had any casualties, but I think what I'm going to have to do is pick up some sort of humidifier to add to the shelf. Now, what I often do as well is I add water to the bottom, the saucers that the plants are sitting in, and then I also have Wabikusa as well as the aquarium here, which helps with some of the open water. I am training some plants to grow up the wall. This is a Begonia Rex vine, and I'm using little clear command adhesive strips to do so. I'm also doing so with this silvery dude here, and I will likely do so with these two plants. I need to, the lighting for, the rest of the lighting for this rack is in those boxes on the stairs. So once I have a light up here, I'm probably going to move these guys up to the top level and start training them down the sidewall. And then I have a variety of pothos over here that I will do the same thing with. It's nothing fancy, but I think it's pretty. And then whatever this dude is very apt to climb. So eventually I'll move it back against the wall and do the same thing with that. But all in all, so far so good. I'm really enjoying having all these plants in the house. And plants have sort of taken over everywhere, which I love. And let's take a quick look at this BiOrb. This was the collaborative project I did with George Farmer at Aquatic Experience. I am struggling a bit keeping this moist enough. It does have a reservoir in the bottom, and it does mist, but it's just not quite enough, and I can tell that because as we look at the moss and the fig leaf or oak leaf, whatever that's called, it's not looking absolutely amazing. However, my jewel orchids are doing quite well. New leaves starting. I see one there. There's definite new growth. Nothing has died. My little Dianema polybulbin that one of you guys sent me, I moved a good portion into here, and it is just growing like gangbusters and spreading across the BiOrb. So the mini orchids really like this thing. And it is beautiful in my living room. There are some flowers as well. This dude, which I'm not even sure exactly what it is, has this delicate little white ruffled flower. And then this guy is flowering constantly. You can see there's new flower buds as well. So all in all, I think this is pretty successful. My springtails are multiplying and doing quite well in here. You guys, let's see it mist. So I'm excited to see this continue to grow and fill out. A lot of the plants have already grown quite a bit, which is nice. In time, a lot of these that are in the back will get substantially taller and fill in this space even more. It's been fun to keep. I do have to supplement the misting system with distilled water that I spray, most specifically that ground cover, so that it doesn't die completely. It does have some new growth nodes, so I'm hopeful that in the long term this will be quite successful. Oh yeah, and that little taro, the black taro that I moved in from the pond, is doing just fine. Again, the hope with this is that it will just overwinter well in here in case the parent plant doesn't, so I have it to start with immediately next year. As always, thank you guys for your continued support. Make sure you're subscribed with that notification bell on, and I will see you in the next video.